Good evening and welcome to today's Tropics for May 21st, 2021. Please note I am not a meteorologist and this video is just a collection of my thoughts and opinions about the storms I'm talking about, and for any decision making please consult National Hurricane Center or your local officials. So today I'm looking at Invest 90L, which now has a 90% chance of becoming likely subtropical cyclone, and Invest 91L here, which now has a 50% chance of forming into a tropical cyclone before it heads inland overnight. So let's first take a look at Invest 90L. So it's continued to develop and try to become divorced from the frontal features that are near it, but it's continued to be related to those features. However, that seems to be changing now because you can see this kind of frontal extratropical feature here, and it seems to be definitely starting to get separated from the low-level center here, which is 90L. And you'll also notice that convection is a lot less impressive now, and that's also actually a sign that it is developing right now as we speak into a subtropical cyclone. So we're having that transition going on, and as it kind of transitions from being supported at least partially by that frontal feature, it's now kind of going out on its own now, and that means for the first little bit it's kind of weak, and so the convection really weakens and it starts looking a little less impressive as it has now. But you see some convection getting going here, and as soon as we have indisputable proof that it's now its own independent feature and has some decent convection going around it, then it's likely be a subtropical storm Anna if it can stay at 35 knots or above and become a subtropical cyclone. Now let's take a look at the water vapor rate, and you can see it's right around the middle of an upper trough here. You can see it's kind of divorced itself here from this larger kind of area, and now it's got its own bubble of moisture that it's in that will help it for the next little bit. And yeah, it's not too much else to say. It's in the middle of the upper trough here, and it's likely going to remain in this sort of area, but probably head southwest and make a close swipe at Bermuda, but probably not go over the island, but likely affect it with some of its impacts. And looking at the A-Tour forecast for about 6 hours from now, from when I'm recording, looking at the upper level 200 millibar winds, you can see it's expected to still be in that same sort of spot, right in the middle between these areas of the upper trough, be right in the middle of it. So it's in that low shear zone where it can get some convection going. Notice that it is under that cyclonic flow aloft, and that's why it's not tropical, rather subtropical, because it is really getting going only because it has the help of an upper trough, which is not a tropical feature. And well, yeah, it's going to have a good chance to get some decent convection without getting sheared, and it doesn't look like in the near future it'll get into this western area where you have upper convergence, and that would also hurt uh, the convection getting going. And looking here too, that bubble of moisture that is from the previous convection, but also some newer convection that the A-Torf here develops with 90L, and that should again allow for some convection to get going while it's kind of stalled out in this area, and you don't have the convection or the moisture getting strung out. So it has this bubble of higher relative humidity, and that will provide it with a pretty decent environment in the next little while. Now it seems less likely that it'll kind of drift westward into that area where there's upper convergence and you have the suppression of the convection. If it does do that, you'll know, because before it kind of gets moved to the northeast, then it will suddenly have convection kind of drop off. But assuming it doesn't do that, there is something that will end up killing it anyway on Sunday into Monday, and that's this frontal feature coming down, and that'll impart some stronger flows it, especially as the ridge builds to the east. If you look back here, you can see there's a ridge up here and that's kind of keeping it blocked away. But uh, as you have this trough come down, you'll have a ridge build more to the east ahead of that trough, and with that trough flow anyway, that means you'll have a very or relatively strong flow to the northeast, and that'll take 90L into eventually some cooler water. But first off, it'll also start stringing the system out. You can see here as it kind of weakens that moist area starts getting strung out by that strong flow, so you can't really have that moist air in and around 90L. Instead, it kind of gets flung out to the northeast, and so that means it can't really get much convection going. So not only will it start to weaken as it doesn't have that convective support, but again, that strong flow will probably mean it will open up into a trough, and that means it won't be a cyclone, obviously. So likely Sunday and Monday, the conditions will start to get worse, and whatever this is at the time will dissipate likely in the early week. Again, however, before that happens, it'll make that close swipe at Bermuda, and there may be some dangerous conditions like possibility of high winds, some rain, dangerous surf, as it is near that area, but it doesn't seem like it'll have direct impact, and it's not like a hurricane or something going on, but there is that tropical storm watch from the Bermuda Weather Service. So you should, if you have any interests in this area or you are in that area, uh, definitely keep an eye on the weather and stay safe. Let's take a look at Invest 91L. And this is certainly one of the more kind of strange investments I've tracked, and that's probably almost solely because it's only May 21st. But this is again that mesoscale convective vortex helped along by an upper trough that has actually managed to get something down to the surface, and that's why chances actually got up to 60% for Tropical Cyclone Genesis earlier. They're now down to 50, and that's because of this very impressive low-level signature here. This is like, I mean, even right here, you've got almost kind of an inflow band of sorts that's kind of choked off because there isn't enough moisture or rising air. But basically, this is almost more of a remnant low than your usual invest. This is like almost a tropical cyclone structure almost, but with a sort of invest like this, its convection is almost the most anemic I've really ever seen in an invest in my short time of tracking. And even though it's got a very good structure and those kind of bones, it has practically no convection over it, and that's why it's not a tropical cyclone. And in the past 24 hours, it hasn't really had much other than very shallow convection. And so if that keeps up, it won't end up being a tropical cyclone at all. And that's why chances are probably starting to drop. However, if you get really much of anything coming up with this, then it will likely be a tropical cyclone. And that's why chances are high, and it's not really something you'd be looking at models for. It's a lot more of a nowcasting situation where it's just looking for those convective bursts. But based on what we're looking at here, it seems the chances are starting to go down. And why isn't it getting any convection? Well, first off, we've got this upper trough, and that is actually helping to deliver some dry air to the area. It's harder to see over 91L, but under this cirrus, you can see the slightly drier air, and that is certainly not helping it at the moment. And at the same time, here's a sounding about 12 hours ago from Lake Charles, and Lake Charles is just about here in southwestern Louisiana, but the down where 91L is, the environment shouldn't be too different, and it's generally tropical, except right here around 700 millibars, so that's about 3 kilometers above the surface. You have this kind of warmer and drier area here, and that's sort of like an inversion almost, or in a way a cap. And if you have a cap in that area, that certainly explains why there's no convection at all, because those kind of air parcels can't get going past there because there's no buoyancy if there's a warm layer above. So it's almost like a cap that you hear about in severe weather terminology, but that's affecting 90L. And on top of that, because it's only early May, even the Gulf of Mexico isn't that warm, and right where it is, the sea surface temperatures are marginal or even below 26 degrees. And unlike Invest 90L, which has this upper low to have to give it better lapse rates, Invest 90L doesn't have that. So the only way it could really get going is if it kind of takes advantage of that uh, more favorable frontal convergence as it kind of comes into this curved coast, and takes advantage of some slightly warmer sea surface temperatures as it gets in, but it doesn't seem as likely, and that's why chances are starting to drop for actual tropical formation. But again, it is still possible. But regardless of if anything happens, that southwesterly fetch with that ridge is bringing tropical air into uh, the general area of Texas, and that upper trough is also delivering some precipitation, uh, luckily in some areas that really need it. But further east, especially as you get to eastern Texas and Louisiana, these are areas that have had a lot of rain, and so they don't really need that rain. But fortunately, as they're kind of at the edge of the ridge, at that kind of wet area, there will be some rain. So no matter what Invest 90L does, or 91L does, it will likely help bring some rain in a generally wet pattern for this area, and with possible convection going on, or just heavy rain in general. There's possibility for flash flooding or flooding, and obviously the main threat here will be rain rather than anything like wind. So if you are in this area, uh, stay tuned to any of that possible flooding or heavy rain, and make sure you are prepared for potential flooding in your area, and uh, keep in contact with your local National Weather Service office. And hopefully you can stay safe as well. Otherwise, there's a whole lot going on in the tropics. Luckily, if you have any questions or comments about my video, please let me know. And thanks for watching.